Hello and welcome to another episode of the Reverse Mentor Lab,
where we engage with thinkers from around the world to explore how leaders of today can learn from leaders of tomorrow.
You're back with your hosts. I'm Joshua.
And I'm Jens.
Today we've got a special episode lined up for you. We're chatting to Sabina Iman. She's the founder of a new dating app called Blink that is changing the way we think about online dating, combining the digital experience with a physical interaction. She's also a mom, a foodie, and a book lover. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello, Sabina. Hey, Josh. Welcome to the show. How are you guys doing?
Hi, Jens. Hi, Josh. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm all good. Sabina, it's an honor to have you on the show with us. And like I said before we started recording, I'm sure you're going to have Jens and I on our toes a bit. And you remarked that you weren't expecting two people on a podcast episode. So it's great to have you with us. And I'm looking forward to sharing your story and also learning from some of your thinking.
Well, thank you for having me. And it's quite interesting to have the podcast with two people at the same time. It's a bit challenging because my attention is divided. However, I think you guys are like complementing each other very well. So happy to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, don't worry at all. We our attention is fully on you.
Okay, that's awesome.
Cool. So Sabina, maybe to kick things off and before we dive into what we're going to be chatting about today, and tell us a bit about yourself. What makes Sabina, and a bit of your story.
Okay, well, I'm the founder of Blink, a new dating app that allows people to connect when they're at the venues. So it's kind of Uber for dating. What we say is that we connect people at the places in real time, and at the same time we help restaurants and bars to drive footfall. And my journey to Blink has been not linear. I would say it's been it took some time to get to this path of entrepreneurship. And looking back, I can say that it started back when I started my MBA at IE Business School. That's when that was the first time when I got exposure to understanding what's entrepreneurship and what's the technology is about. And that's one of the reasons why I actually decided to do an MBA, is to switch my career from marketing to tech. However, back then I didn't exactly know where it will land. So I was thinking about the job at Amazon or Google. That was like the top priority for me after graduation. And that didn't work, apparently. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I am right now where I am. So when I started my MBA, I got super interested in how I can jump in and change my career from marketing into tech and entrepreneurship. And I had my first experience in the tech lab. That was like basically the challenge that IE was presenting together with Oracle. That's where I first developed the concept of the product, and it was a blockchain-based a product that helped people to exchange gigabytes. Basically, the idea was to democratize the mobile consumption, the consumption of the mobile internet, and allow people to freely exchange the gigabytes compared to, let's say, how the fixed plan works right now. It was a super innovative idea, and we actually got a reward as the best blockchain use case among telecom industries, and we were competing with 21 teams. So that's then I decided that I will take that further to the venture lab. That was also the part of IE program, and kind of understand how to now create not just the concept, but also like build a prototype and pitch it to investors. That was like more of the sales process. That's where we had like the first exposure of actually building a prototype, pitching on the stage, creating a pitch deck. And that was the time when I was very close to graduation. And it was like I had to choose either to go with that company. I had the co-founder, but already had the prototype. We had some interest from investment. Or I had to land a full-time job. And back then, my daughter was just 3 years old. And I was there in Madrid with her, and I didn't know if I was ready to actually jump into the entrepreneurial journey because everything was super intense at that moment. Graduation, expectations, and then the little child. And I didn't know whether that is possible or not. I didn't believe in myself, honestly. And I decided, okay, it would be safer to just take a job. And I took an opportunity in one of the companies that offered me an internship. And I started to work with the technology companies, mainly with startups in B2B segment. And I did sales, go-to-market strategy, business development. So that was also a quite useful experience, because we had a lot of experiments within the company on understanding how to grow different stage of startups. For example, there were startups that were just at the stage of doing the first sales. There were startups that were already growing. So it gave me an understanding of what is actually the startup is, and what does it take to build a company, how many resources needed, what's the leadership, what's the importance of the leader and the leadership approach that someone uses inside of the company to make it successful. And that gave me like a bit of understanding of what's that ecosystem from internal perspective. And and then COVID happened. So I lost my job, and apparently I was in a lockdown with my daughter in Madrid. And I didn't know what's next, because I couldn't return to my country, and I didn't know whether I will find another job. So I just went on LinkedIn and I just posted out that guys, I'm looking for the job. This is the situation. That was actually my first experience with like going on into the public place and just sharing my feelings of what's going on the platform, just to get to understanding if that works or not. But that was like an inspired action that I took, and it landed me a job in a startup as a product manager. So I started to consult a startup based in LA. And that was also a great experience, because now I was inside of a startup, and that was already at the growth stage. And I had to wear multiple hats there. It wasn't like a managerial position that I was holding before. And because when you are the manager or consultant, it's very easy. You just put everything in the PDF, PPT. You do the research. You consult all these companies, say it's better to do it this way or that way. But you never understand what's the pain point from inside, and you never understand what does it take really to do something or to close a deal, to find that customer that is ready to pay for the product that no one knows about, to build the trust. Because when we talk about the sales, it's always three components that makes it work for the startup. It's basically if someone trusts the product, if someone trusts the person, and if someone trusts the company. And when I look at it from that perspective, when you are at Amazon or Google, you eliminate automatically the two components. Everyone believes in the product, everyone believes in the company. So the only trust that you need to gain is as just a salesperson. But when you are in a startup, it's like all three have to be built by yourself. And you have to be sure, like in all three components so much that you need to transmit that to someone that is buying that product from you. And so when you are inside of the startup, and I started to wear these multiple hats of like, I was supposed to be a product manager, but I had experience in also like doing the marketing, user acquisition, working with the Google ads. And the idea of that company was that if you have an idea, you execute it. You never tell us what to do. We don't need managers. We just need executors. So you got an idea, perfect, go and do it. That's how I figured out what it is like to build a landing page, or to bid on Google for Google ads, or to create like a copy for the advertising. Like I used to work in the advertising agency, but there the roles are very split. So someone does the idea part, the other person designs it, the third person is a copywriter. Whether when you're in startup, you are everything. Basically, you are a copywriter, a designer, a product manager. And that was a quite interesting experience. And I guess that prepared me very well for what I have faced with Blink after. So I worked there for a couple of months as a consultant, and when the contract was over, I was thinking, okay, what's next? And back then I already started to work on Blink, but it wasn't shaped yet. So it was just me with the designer talking about, okay, how the product can look. We started to prepare some layouts, and I started to think about who can be the best co-founding team for it. And when that job was over, I said, okay, maybe it's time. What can go wrong? We have to give it a try, and we need to start working on it, and trying to find an investment, and trying to find the way how to create that product and bring it to life. And yes, I didn't have an experience of like bringing a full product into life or launching a product before. But I just decided to give it a chance, and things started to fall into the place when I just started to put some actions into it, like dedicated actions. And that's how it all started.
Great story. I would like to dig deeper. So you mentioned that when you have been working at the venture lab and built the prototypes and so on, and then lost that job, you took the decision going into another company, working there because of what you said, is like you didn't believe in yourself.
Yeah.
What has changed your belief in yourself over that time?
That's a good question. I think what changed is, back then I was very scared of failure. I was scared that, okay, there is an imposter syndrome. I was only sure that there is the certain thing that I'm good at, and that's like basically marketing and sales, and or go-to-market strategy, and I can do that well. So I will just go with that and be on the safe side, because I know how to put PPTs together and do the research and recommend. I was very excuse me, I was very confident in my ability to do that. And that's why I went for that, because I knew that the outcome will bring the results and I will succeed in that. Whether when you're going for the startup, it's always the 90% of the time you fail. So you have to be prepared for that. And I guess I was neither prepared for failure. I wanted to succeed so badly. And I wanted to to be there and say, hey, this is like what she has done to the company. She came here, she changed this. This is the results that I have achieved that I can put on my resume and say, yes, this is like the fulfillment. So that's one of the things that I was fearing, the failure, I guess. And I went to something that I was sure that I know how to do it, because in the startup, you don't know how to do things. You figure out as you move. And a lot of things will come out to you, and you have to go and Google it and, and think, okay, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? What's next? Is this the time when when you already failed and you need to quit, or is this normal? So you have to figure out everything as you go, whether in that job, everything is pretty much predictable. You just know that, okay, these are the KPIs you need to reach. You have a monthly salary. These are the people that you need to work with, and you know how to manage them. So it's the probability of failure is very low. And that's why it's very safe to go for that. And that's one of the things. And the second, of course, the situation with the life, like I didn't know how I'm going to pull out myself and my daughter without the salary, without the monthly fee that I will be receiving, and I will be able to pay my bills. When the COVID happened, I think that changed a lot, because when I got this job through the LinkedIn announcement, I just realized the power of some kind of creative thinking that you can, it doesn't matter in what situation you are. If you are a problem solver, you can get it out. You just need to take an action, an inspired action, and things will work out. So I think that was the first signal. And when that happened, so because the job was remote, I moved to Barcelona. I was before living in Madrid. And when I moved to Barcelona, I didn't have anyone that I knew in the city. So I just had to go and just meet random people and start building the network and figuring out how to live. And when that job was gone, and I believe that the amount of network that I have already created from the scratch, and the amount of people that I had in my surroundings, and like basically that also helped me to understand that okay, everything can be possible. Maybe it's not that scary, to go into unknown. Things can work out. You just need to to believe in yourself and just to do your things, and everything kind of will fall in place. And there were very scary times. I mean, there were times when I had to stay at my friend's place because I didn't have a place to stay. There was no job, and I was building up the product, and I didn't know how to pay bills. And it was either, well, I had a chance to go to the job, like to apply to the job and go back to that and go back to that stable. And then I realized that it will be the same step that I took after MBA. And you can always do that. But then this experience is something that you might miss out. So if you really believe it, you have to just go through these difficulties and move on. So yeah, 4 or 5 months of sleeping on the couch of my friend's place, and yeah, basically don't knowing what's next. And I have to admit that when people see you going after something, you will always get support. They will always tell you like, never give up, don't go back, don't do that. Some people will tell you, get a job, get a normal life, get a salary. And yes, you understand that makes sense as well. It's not that they are doing that on purpose. It's just they care. They don't want you to go through this pain. And yeah, so it was this unstable period when I didn't know how it will go. And then somehow we pushed it through. We managed to get a team together, and we started to think about funding. It took us 3 months to get our first funding, and that's when we started to build up the product and go live.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's just such an awesome story. And what really springs to mind, Sabina, is that saying where constraints breed innovation. And I think over the last 18 months and 2 years, the world's had to deal with these constraints. And to see something that you've built, and it must be incredibly rewarding to see it evolving and to see it growing, and also to meet all of these different people along the way. And I mean, before we started recording, you were sharing some stories around challenges and excitement that you've faced over the last sort of 2 to 3 weeks in terms of bringing that into a physical space. And I thought I would use that as a bit of a segue to talk a bit about Blink, and how did you sort of combine this uncertain time with a dating app? And then tell us a bit about how Blink is different to the likes of Tinder and Bumble and some other dating apps in the ecosystem.
Sure. So the idea of a dating app itself came to me when I was back in my corporate job, and I was having like a pretty chill life. I went to a trip. I was at the airport, and this idea came to me at the airport, but it came out of the pain points that I was experiencing, because I was using dating apps in Madrid a lot to meet people. That was the only way for me to filter out who speaks English, who does not, because in Madrid, no one speaks English. And my Spanish is not at the level of like speaking or like seeing someone. So I used the Bumble and Tinder mainly. Like I tried also like OkCupid and Inner Circle. But then I realized that these dating apps are actually causing a lot of time engagement, and I was on a full-time job. I was having my daughter with me, and I just didn't realize that it like really takes you a lot of time to talk to someone, to actually go and meet them in real life. So you have to like to swipe a lot, you have to chat a lot to appoint one date, and then that's also the number game. So you have to go through a lot of matches and a lot of chats in order by the end of the week to have like to have someone who will you will be able to get a drink with and actually meet. And that was something that was frustrating, because when you are at work, these notifications come out, you are distracted, you start to chat. And then sometimes these conversations really go nowhere, like people start ghosting, or they never reply, or you never get actually a date. And so it's wasted time. basically. So you went and talked with someone, you put an energy, and it didn't turn out into anything. I felt like that is a bit of waste of time, especially for me when I value time a lot. And for me, it's more about like I would prefer, to find a new hobby, to read another article than to waste it on someone that's like going nowhere. And I understand that most of the dating apps are kind of, they are positioning themselves as like trial and errors. So you have to try and go through a lot of conversations. You have to go through a lot of matches and a lot of dates in order to get to that one. Whether I believe that it's more about where you are physically, what you are looking for, and your compatibility. So the places that you go, the things that you like. So the more choices we have, actually, the worse decisions we make. That's called paradox of choice. It's like proven theory and a lot of scientific research was done on that. So when you are in the grocery shop, if you have like tons of flavors of jams, you usually pick the one that you even didn't want to, because you just, you're curious, and that's the same with the dating apps. So every time that you swipe, you think that the next one will be better. So you might actually miss the chance of like someone who is better for you, just because you are understanding that there's a lot of choice. So you're like, okay, I will meet someone who is hotter, cuter, or better, or like have better job, and so on. So you swipe to the next. While when you have a limited choice, you tend to make better decisions, just because it's kind of, you're limited to this exposure or to this certain number. That's why, like with this dating apps, I found out that, okay, why we cannot just limit the choice, and that can be limited to the physical space you are in and to the places that you like to go, so that the compatibility increases and you have a higher chance that you will meet someone that you actually like. These people are physically available, they are real, because they went to these places, and you know that it's not a fake profile or someone that's pretending to be who they are not. And that happened a lot. You go on a date and the person is actually not looking the same way, or, they are just not what they claim to be, entrepreneurs, but they're actually like Uber drivers, which is fine. Like, have nothing against that. It just, you expect different thing, and they lie on the profiles and they exaggerate. Whether here it's more of like real, the person is real, you are in the same space, and there is a higher chance of compatibility because you like the same things, you have the pretty much same lifestyle, and it's more of like a magical moment, I would say, because it's when you are out and you are looking for meeting someone, and something already brought you there and brought the other person there. So that's where we make this just happen. So we make it just easier to connect with these people. So it's more of like going towards the organic way, and like using the dating app to bridge the gap and to remove the fear of rejection. However, pushing towards the more real connections, authentic connections, and face-to-face dating.
Yeah, I love that thinking, Sabina. And, it reminds me of what you mentioned earlier inside of the conversation, was really this point around trust, and how, as an entrepreneur, you sort of went on a self-discovery around trust, and now you're creating this space where you're enabling people to develop that level of trust with one another, because you're bringing in this physical transaction, if we can use that term, inside of a digital online dating app, which I think is extremely innovative. And I know that you've chatted with Jens on his podcast show about that, and it's really, really cool to think about that. And one of the things that pops into my mind as you've been sharing your story is around, how do you think that young thinkers, or people in general, can develop that trust within themselves? And I mean, you told stories of yourself in terms of your journey from, taking an MBA and using it to understand marketing and technology, but then also going into a startup environment and actually learning to trust yourself to drive execution. How do you think people in general, but specifically maybe young thinkers that are listening to this, can go about developing trust in themselves?
I believe it requires the level of self-awareness and how you can get to the self-awareness is just the habits that you build on the way. So I think that started from the moment when I understood what I really want. And when you really connect to yourself and you understand what you really want, then you think about the habits that can take you there. So when you really understand what you want, you have to give away something that you don't want. So it's always about sacrifices. When I lost my job and I was in the lockdown, that was the time when I really connected with myself, because I didn't have the social interactions. You don't have the people who influence you all the time. And when you are around colleagues, friends, you go out all the time, you talk about things that you want. You don't hear really with the feedback that you receive, but that's put a pace in your mind, because you don't, you share, you hear the feedback, you just like don't think about it consciously, but it does have an impact in you. So when you talk about your idea of becoming an entrepreneur to someone who is at the like with you in the corporate job or whatever, first thing you will be hearing is the fear. People are fearing, okay, how are you going to do this? Or some people will say that, some people will encourage you to do that on the side because you have a child, because you need to keep the job and so on, while you are trying to raise money and do things. But the problem is that that doesn't work this way. So if you want to understand how to do that, you need to go and talk to the people who have done that. So you need to surround yourself with people who are entrepreneurs and who understand that it requires full-time dedication and what are the steps that you need to take. And in order to get there, as I said, during the pandemic, I had a lot of free time to think about it. And so, yeah, you have to give on like many things and to build up the habits that help you to get there. And when I say many things, it means you start to think about, okay, how do I get to build the website? For example, you need you might need either a resource or knowledge. So there are two ways. If you need a resource, it means you need to save money. If you need to save money, you need to give up on drinks and going out for dinners, for example. You save this money and then you put that on the website, and that's how you start. Take action one, then you see the result, okay, the next. Or if you don't want to give up on that, you say, okay, I don't want to like put my resource, I want to put my knowledge. Then you still need to give up on going out and studying a course and building this up if you want to do that by yourself. But you need to understand that there are things that you will give up, and every time that you give that up and you start going towards what you really want and you see the results of it, that's what brings you that confidence that, okay, the next step, then the next step, and then that becomes easier. And in the beginning, you don't understand it. And I think that's what we refer back to your question about the pandemic. When pandemic happened, it forced us in that environment of isolation, where we were more connected with ourselves within the four walls, and we kind of like left the clutter out. So we stopped seeing and hearing people around us, which helped us to understand, okay, what is something that you really, really want in life? Is it this job, or is it something that you are passionate about? And when you hear that, then the answers come, okay, and then you may be even not knowing the answer, but you start Googling it, and you start to think, okay, what do you need to become an entrepreneur? You need to do this and that and that. How to do that? You need to save money, you need to cut the costs, you need to move maybe to the cheaper city, you need to go where entrepreneurs are, you need to understand where is the ecosystem, where are the investors, and so on. And when you start understanding what you need to do, then you create the habits that leads you there. And you understand, okay, this I need to give up. I need to give up on the phone calls with my friends. Hours of complaining, oh my God, the life is unfair, for example. I still have that. I'm trying to get rid of that. I'm not saying that I don't have that. I do have that. But I realize that this is something that's draining the energy out of you, because you can then focus on the solutions. And we don't realize that. But when we take the phone and we call the friend and say, oh my God, life is unfair. I don't know how to move on. This is so hard. we actually draining our own energy, and we put ourselves in the problem mindset. While when you cut that out, you put yourself in the solution mindset, because every answer is within you. So you start hearing yourself. When you hear yourself, you understand, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to write that email. I need to do that phone call. I need to get to there. And that's how you start like building up the actions. And when you do the actions, then the results comes. So yeah, I believe that like cutting out all these things that don't serve you is the first thing that will help you really, because, and I think that's one of the things why what I didn't have when I finished my MBA is I didn't know what you need to give up. So I wanted my life, basically. I wanted it to be as it was, because I couldn't imagine, okay, how it is that you don't go out, how it is that, you know, you don't have this long conversations, that you don't have social lives, because sometimes it does get very long. Like you feel alone, because it's like requires you to be focused on yourself and what you do. And sometimes you feel isolated, and sometimes you lose like what other people are doing, and it just, you have to be committed to that and be ready to that. That's what does it require.
Yeah, love that, because I can so relate to that, because I have, and I am still there in the same way. It's like I've had an amazing life. I still have an amazing life, but to be able to run my business or businesses, I need to sacrifice a lot of things which I would love to do. It's like, yeah, going out with friends sometimes, and during the week it's not going to happen. Sometimes on the weekend, but even there it's week work.
Yeah.
Like my friends are always complaining, yeah, but you're working every day. It's like, yes, that's how it is to be
Yeah.
an entrepreneur.
No,
But
I agree with that. It's like it's very hard to explain that to someone that doesn't know how it is.
yeah,
So if you want to understand how it is, then you need to be around these people. That's why I'm so like active on LinkedIn, because I believe that there are a lot of entrepreneurs on LinkedIn, and you know, they share their stories, they share their like and it's not the perfect journey. You will always go back to that. You will be dragged to that, because every time you cannot, like every time that you promise yourself something, and then you know someone calls and they start talking about something, and then you find yourself in a complaining mode.
yeah.
You are falling into those traps all over again. But then you have to kind of like, you know, reflect back and see, okay, something is like taking me off my track. I need to get back on track. So you need to all the time do that conversation with yourself. And yes, I agree, like Jens, that it's like the friends, they will not understand, because there were times when, yeah, Sundays, Saturdays, you are doing the work. And for example, when I was working at my corporate job and I started to think about Blink, I was going on Sundays to my university to do this user journey with my daughter, and she was sitting there with me like a few hours while I was thinking. But then I realized that, okay, this is what makes me happy. It's just about understanding what makes you happy. You know, some people are happy with their other life. They're happy with having the job and then having the happy hours on Friday, and that's the right, like, you know, everyone has. And if someone is happy with the freedom of doing that, like having their vacations 1 month, 24 days or whatever, that's perfectly fine. I believe that for me, the happiness was like to try this completely new journey, to build things from the scratch, to figure out who you are on the way, what are you capable, and how much you can push yourself. And even still, I don't know where this journey will end, but it's an unbelievable experience. I think that day I wrote on LinkedIn that there is no job created that gives you this experience of self-reflection, because it's always on you. You never can blame anyone. You can never tell, oh my God, I didn't do that because, you know, the people in my department was not the right person. I work with this lazy colleague that doesn't do the job well, or my boss is like that. No, it's like you understand that every decision that you have taken is either taking you towards that or from that, and it's all on you. So it's like a huge school for taking responsibility for yourself.
Love that. Josh.
There's so much too, and I feel like we could go on for at least another hour, but I'm going to be respectful of your time, Sabina. You've really shared a lot of nuggets and thoughts for us to consider and to ponder, and I've definitely done a lot of internal thinking while you've been sharing your stories, and I look forward to following Blink's journey and also following your journey, because some of the things that you share on LinkedIn are incredibly thoughtful, and also, provoke different ways of thinking. And one of the things that we sort of developing inside of the Reverse Mentor Lab and this journey that Jens and I are on with our guests and with other thinkers around the world is this concept of inspiring or leaving a challenge for those who are listening. And so I'm going to ask you if you've got any words of inspiration or maybe a call to action that you're keen for people to embark on.
Okay, I need to think about that, but I would say when it comes to the inspiration, as I said, really take time to cut out the noise and listen to yourself if you want to become an entrepreneur, to understand that you really, really want it, and then build up the habits that will take you there. So it has to take a lot of discipline, and you have to say a lot of no's to things. I don't remember when was the last time when I did shopping, for example, and I love shopping. Just because you are not in that mood. So you will have to give a lot of things away, at least in the beginning, when there is first 2 years of the company, when things are really not smooth and you have to figure a lot of things on your way. And if it's your first venture that you are building, so understand what you're ready to give up in order to get what you really, really want. And I would say, just make the list of priorities and understand what you can cut out. And it doesn't matter that you have to completely lock yourself, and forget about the joy in life. I think it's just a matter of putting some time for that and doing a little bit of that, because at the end, if you don't enjoy the journey, then it becomes a very depressive way of doing things, and you feel demoralized. And I believe that feeling joyful about the journey is also important. It's just about the amount. So if, as John said, it's not during the weeks, if it's a weekend, and then always staying self-conscious, what you hear, what other people are giving you as an advice, because sometimes the advices might be not really good for you, at least at the stage where you are, and they might not know about that. But being aware of things that you hear, you read, it's very important. And connect with people who are really inspiring. Connect with people who are on the same journey, who can teach you, who can guide you. At the moment when you are about to give up, understand that even Bill Gates went back to the university, and if he decided to stay there, there would be no Microsoft. So the journey is not straightforward. You will go, everything will pull you back. From time to time, you will go back to your comfort zone. You want to go back to your comfort zone, especially when things are not going well. You're ashamed. You always feel these negative feelings. You feel like you're a failure because it's not going the way that you wanted it to be. So you have to give up and go back to the safe mode. That's when actually you are kind of the rebirth happens. That's the time when you realize, okay, no, I'm not giving up. It's just a part of the journey. I'm figuring out how to make this work, and I'm going, and this is the next step that I need to take. So that would be something that I would recommend to anyone who wants to start this journey.
Yeah, super powerful.
And
super powerful.
Don't read TechCrunch. It's not true. Things are not that glamorous, and it's before everyone raises millions, there is a tons of hard work that they have put, and no one sees that journey. So when you read that someone's raised Series A or Series B, understand that there was a lot of things behind the scenes that no one talks about.
Yeah.
So it's not that glamorous. It's more real, and you have to be understanding that if you decided to go there, it will take a lot of sacrifices and a lot of hard work.
So I've got a call to action for anyone that listens to this when it comes out, is if you are in Barcelona, please do try and connect with Sabina. Please get in touch with her, because I know that she's busy building out some beta testers, and really would love your feedback from a Blink perspective, but also would just like to connect in general, because I think that's one of the things that the pandemic has taught us about people, and the importance of connecting with like-minded individuals, but also different people, and embracing diversity. So the last request from my side, Sabina, is where can people get in touch with you? How can people support your journey, and what do you need from them going forward?
Well, you can always find me on LinkedIn, and I'm there, always active. And if you want to reach me out, I would be more than happy to get a message. And then I always like to connect with people that I've never met before, like with Jens and John. We connected through the LinkedIn. We just came out, and I believe it's like amazing part about this platform is if you have like-minded people, you just connect instantly, and you don't need a long history of going to the same university or being the neighbors or whatever. So you just have this instant click. LinkedIn, and reach out to me. And the way that you can help me, as I said, if you're in Barcelona, feel free to reach out. We're looking for testers because we're about to introduce the new features, sharing, and anyone who can bring their expertise in the stage that we are in, I would be more than happy to listen to that as well, especially when it comes to the marketplace type of startups that require strong user base. That's something that I'm open to hear in terms of the experience of how people grew that. So open to that.
Great. Sabina, was a pleasure having you on the podcast, and I'm as Joshua was saying, we're eagerly looking into what's happening with Blink going forward. And as soon as I'm in Barcelona, we will definitely meet in person. I will try the app.
I will be happy.
Though that I need to get the permission from my wife to do that.
Yeah. We do have some people that have been actually in the relationship, but out of curiosity, they registered on the app to check it out. So yeah, of course, would be happy to get in touch and to meet and show you the app as well. And thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Joshua.
Thanks for listening and joining us on the journey that is the Reverse Mental Lab. If anything fascinated you in the discussion that we had today, you're welcome to set up a 15-minute coffee chat with us. Our emails are in the show notes, and you can also connect with us on our website, thexyzplayground.com.